Education 911 bringing you breaking news. We have a special lady with us today. Her name is Colette, and she is from Boerne, Texas. She has children that go to Boerne ISD, and she is here to tell us about what happened on April 11th in the library during lunchtime at her son's school. Hey, Colette, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So can you tell us what happened on April 11th?
My son got in the car at pickup that day and informed me that there was a psychiatrist that had come to the school, and she was there during lunch, and she had conversations during lunch about gender modification, surgery, taking drugs to alter your gender. And my son was very distraught, and I asked him many questions about the event and what was said. I asked him if he personally interacted with her. He said yes, that he did when she mentioned that Christians do not support the gay community. My son stood up and said, no, that's not true. They do support the gay community. Christians love everyone. And she asked him to name 10 priests that were gay.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It was very shocking to hear him talk about that. The fact that he was so disturbed really shone a light on the fact that my son knew right from wrong, and he knew that what he was hearing was wrong. It wasn't the right place for it, hearing it at school. He originally told me that he thought that this meeting during lunch, it was during Kindness Week. So they said that this is our guest speaker during Kindness Week. We're having a day of silence or a week of silence to shine a light on the gay and transgender community. And this was their first day of the week, and they had this guest speaker come in, and my son just said he thought it was for support, that she was going to come in and share some stuff about, like, you know, getting support if you're feeling down, or like how to get online and look up different things. But instead it was an indoctrination meeting, essentially.
So after you had that conversation with him, what action did you take with the school district?
So after I had the interaction with him, it was about 4:30 in the afternoon. We were on our way home from school. I came home and I instantly got on my computer and emailed the principal of the school, Beto Hinosa. And I said that I had 3 questions, and my questions were very simple. Like, I hear that there was a psychiatrist at the school today during lunch. I'm concerned because my son has special needs. And for us to have somebody come on campus, it's a lot of rigmarole. You have to jump through a lot of hoops. They have to be escorted. And I said, my son said that this person just showed up. They were part of this presentation from the GSA Club, which is a Gay Straight Alliance Club. And I said, I want to know what she talked about. I want to know the content of her curriculum, if she was teaching anything. And I'd like to know who approved this. And several hours went by, and later on that evening, I received another email from him that stated it was dear parents. So it wasn't directed back just to me. It said dear parents. So I assumed everybody in the district got this email. And in the content of the email, it just said that the district was not aware of this person coming. They weren't aware of any flyers, because there were about 10 or so flyers up around the school. And they don't agree with the message that she gave, and it doesn't align with their values for Boerne ISD, and they're sorry that it happened, and that was about it. So I did respond back to him that evening, and I said, thanks for your explanation, but you didn't answer my question. I want to know what she talked about, because my son came home telling me a lot of what she talked about. I would like to confirm it with you. Again, I CC'd the board, which it's very difficult to find an email address for the board. Friends have emailed the board about this same issue. There's a lot of people that can't find email addresses for these people. And I also CC'd the superintendent. I received no response back from my second email. So I still didn't know what had been talked about, still had unanswered questions. And several days went by before I actually heard anything.
Wow. So district was not aware that this person was even being let onto campus. If I were to go to my child's campus, I can't even get in the front door without giving my ID.
Right.
And get past the office without having a very express purpose that has been approved by someone to actually get past the office through the second locked door. So how do you think this person actually made it on campus without anybody knowing or approving that they were there?
Well, several parents actually reached out, friends of mine and acquaintances that I've met, and they've reached out to the principal. Some people got answers back, other people never got answers back. One of the answers was, yes, she was signed in through the office. I didn't personally receive this answer, but this is what this person received. She was signed in through the office, and they said that the librarian is the one that walked her to the library. The GSA sponsor had something to do with it, but they just keep blaming it on the kids, saying that it's a student-led club, so that's how she ended up in here. We still don't have answers on, there's a lot of uncertainty and we don't have any clear response from them to know exactly how this happened. Was she paid? Did she come in and just walk to the library and nobody, like none of the admin knew? Because that's their story. None of them knew. So this woman was there, but there's at least 4 assistant admin at this school and a principal, and not one of them knew that this person was coming or what they were going to talk about.
And so it's obvious by your description of what happened that you were not asked for permission for your child to be in the presence of a psychiatrist.
No, I never signed any permission slips. I didn't even sign a permission slip for him to attend the club, and he attends other clubs at the school. And the other club that he attends, I had to sign a permission slip so that the school was aware that I knew where he was. It's an after school club. The GSA meets before school between 8 and 8:30. The gaming club meets between 4 and 5. And I've never signed a permission slip. The speaker that came, I never signed a permission slip for them either.
So when we were talking before this interview, we talked a little bit about a second event or incident that happened after the April 11th, where your son was pulled into the counselor's office. Can you tell us what happened there?
Yeah, and I will say that my son was also pulled into the assistant principal's office twice and essentially interrogated about certain things with her. And I had asked her to call me when she spoke to him. She would pull him down to the office first and then call me after he was already down there. So essentially, I mean, I don't really know if anything was said before I got on the phone. And then during those, she would ask me what kind of social media I had. And, you know, maybe he's being bullied by these kids and called names because he did speak at the board meeting. And she was blaming it on the fact that I was on social media, and maybe the posts on social media are making this worse. Then just recently, my son, we bought my son a cell phone to protect himself because he was scared to go to school. He was scared that these people were going to attack him because they can be quite volatile. We got him a phone, and he texted me at about 3:00 in the afternoon and said, "Mom, my counselor wants to talk to me." And I just said, then you should probably record. And he recorded the entire conversation. She's the LSSP with the school district. I'm not sure if this is her home school or not. She pulled him into her office. We had the whole conversation on tape. She said that she was pulling him in to talk about his IEP and whether or not she was going to continue his counseling services. That is not what the focus of this meeting was. In fact, she asked him about his speech at the board and how he felt. And then she asked him if the words that he was speaking were his own and if he could take ownership and he liked what he was talking about. Like, could he stand by what he said? So essentially making my 16-year-old special needs son doubt himself with what he spoke about.
After he had the guts to stand up in front of a board meeting and speak.
Exactly. He had the guts to get up there. He asked me when this happened, after I emailed Mr. Hinosa and got my responses. You know, my son could tell that I was frustrated as a parent with the response that I received, or lack of response that I received. And my son said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to go speak at the board." And my son has never public spoke before. And he said, "I want to speak at the board too." And that's when I looked at him and I said, "What do you want to talk about?" And he goes, "I want to talk about why this was wrong." And I said, "Okay, well, you're going to write your own speech because I'm not writing your speech for you." And he said, "Of course." And so he came upstairs, he sat on the floor of my office, and he dictated to me, and I typed what he was talking about. He told the counselor that I helped him with organization. That is true. I did organize his speech for him because he's never done a public speech before. And but all the content of his speech was his own. He came up with all of that himself. He knew that what was happening was wrong. This club had slides that they would show every morning on Fridays of political indoctrination, telling kids who to vote for, bashing our own Governor Abbott, bashing Chip Roy, who is our representative for this area. Book bans, slides that talked about the books that were banned or removed from the library and why they were removed, and blaming it on conservatives. So this was a very one-sided club. And my son identifies as a Christian conservative. And he said that he realized after all this that he felt very isolated with them, because if you don't believe their values and what they believe, then you're ostracized. And so, after he spoke up, we had some issues with kids approaching him. We had 5 kids approach him during lunch one day, and the assistant principal was within feet of him. And instead of waiting or breaking up the situation and telling the kids to leave him alone, she asked him if he was okay in front of these 5 kids. So my son isn't going to answer back, oh, I'm in danger, or like, I don't like this situation, with 5 staring at him. So it's just mismanaged from the very start. I feel like this it needed oversight from somebody in the district to say, this is wrong. We need policy to stop this. And that's simply not happening. You have to call the superintendent to find out what's going on. He won't release a statement.
Yeah, and you brought up what my next question was going to be. Has there been any changes that you know of in policy as a result of the fact of all of the obvious dangers that your child was put into, access to a psychiatrist without permission, going to a club that didn't have your permission for, being indoctrinated with content that has no business being in schools? So it sounds like you are not aware at all of any policy changes that have taken effect at this point.
When I spoke, I did speak with the superintendent, and it was probably about a week and a half after the initial event had happened. He did say that they have plans to work on it, and he said in June they were going to work on it. But there's been nothing in writing, and I'm a firm believer that if you have nothing in writing, then nothing is holding you accountable. It's just words at this point. It's just him saying that we're going to do this, and you should believe us. But the problem is, nothing is happening thus far. I do know that the sponsor of the club, or the moderator of the club, or whatever they want to call it, she apparently did step down because the club has not actively been meeting. So I do know that happened. They can't find somebody to take it over because of the issues that have surrounded it. But as far as I know, there's really been no change to any of this. The club members have been told to stay away from my son. That was my request. Please let them know not to go near my child. He doesn't want to be bothered or badgered while he's eating lunch. And parents want answers. Yeah. We want to know that our parental rights are being upheld. And as of right now, we don't really have solid answers. It's call us if you want to know what's going on.
So when it comes to your parental rights, would it be a correct statement that they basically ignored your parental rights throughout this whole process?
Absolutely. I think that from the start, if you're going to have clubs at a school, there should be permission slips all the way around. Parents should know that where their kids are. If I'm dropping my son off a little bit before school and he's going to attend a club, then the parent has the right to know that the child's attending or planning on attending the club. There should be a permission slip that goes home right away. It was brought to my attention that probably the kids in this club don't want their parents to know because of their sexuality. And, there was a Discord channel where there were several conversations on this Discord channel that talked about keeping this stuff from parents. It even mentioned teachers by name, that, they called me by the wrong pronouns, or they called me by my given name, not my real name. And, this really bothers me. Or they called me by my other name and now my parents are going to find out. This is all keeping stuff from parents. And to me, the lack of response from the district, it just shows that they're not upholding our parental rights. I expect a statement. I expect somebody to say something, put it in writing, let the district know. We have so many angry parents in this district right now, and people are fed up. And why is it so hard to write a statement saying, we are going to work on this. This is our plan. This is when we're going to start. Expect to have the new policy written out by January, or not January, but July or August before the next start of school. Why is that so hard? So no, I don't feel that they've upheld my parental rights. I feel that a lot of it is, oops, we messed up. Believe us, we're going to fix it. But then you have nothing to go off of.
Right. What about your son? At any time in this process, do you feel like they actually cared about what was best for him?
I think that there's some people that care in the district about him with this situation, but I was also told, a couple of us parents met with 3 members of the board while all of this was at its height. It was a couple of days after it happened, and they agreed to meet with us. And one of those members mentioned that this was blown way out of proportion. So if that's the mentality of the board members who are obligated to write policy on this to prevent it from ever happening, then I don't have much faith in any of them for protecting my child.
Right. So Texas Education 911 volunteers right now and for the last 6 months have been working with Texas lawmakers to help them understand what needs to change in Texas public schools. What would you want to say to the Texas lawmakers? What are you needing or wanting from them when it comes to this type of a situation?
I want to see policy in place that protects the clubs from, there needs to be oversight over these clubs. It needs to protect the club from having issues and then the school district from having issues because of the club. So as of right now, there's no laws through TEA or no oversight to protect the school district and the club from anything happening. The school districts are depending on federal law. So I would love to see a bill passed that covers protection over these clubs and has some sort of a consequence for stuff like this happening. If there's no guidance at TEA, no guidance at the state level, then we're depending on free speech laws that are federal. And that doesn't really jive with the whole school free speech, because free speech is limited at school. You can't walk into a school and say obscene, threatening things. So it should be the same for clubs that are school related before or after school. And I'd love to see some legislation passed that protects this, because right now parents feel like they're kind of, what do we do? It's federal law and that's it. And the school districts, from the consensus I've heard from the superintendent, he feels the same way, as like, well, right now the only thing we can go off is federal law.
That's a great suggestion. And one of the things that parents across the state have been asking our legislators for is something called a parent ombudsman, which is basically an independent investigative agency. We don't want it associated with the TA. We want it to be fully independent. And the goal would be that in this type of a situation, you don't have to wait on this long process where the school district is judge, jury, and decision maker when it comes to whether or not they're going to make changes. We would like for you as a parent to be able to pick up the phone, go to the internet, make one phone call, fill out one form to initiate an investigation. And then the ombudsman would come in, do the investigation, and determine whether or not there are any current laws that are being violated and what the school needs to do to fix their policies so that they are no longer at risk of violating those laws. Is that something that you think would have been beneficial here in this situation?
Absolutely, because the grievance process to me is just a time waster. You meet with the principal, and if you're already having an issue with the principal, I mean, I exhausted talking to him. At some point, it was like, okay, well, you're just giving the same answers over and over again. So there's really no point in meeting with you in person and going over through the same script that you've been told to give everybody. I would much rather see somebody independent come in there and be able to investigate this, because these types of things come up for parents constantly. I'm a SPED parent. I've been through due process. I know what it's like. A lot of this stuff takes a lot of time. So hopefully if we get an ombudsman in there, the time waste that we waste to investigate these things will be diminished, because right now it's you wait months for stuff to change. You know, the grievance process, they have a timeline too with everything that they go through. And then you would just be meeting with the board in the end, and then TEA if you didn't get your answer from the board. So it's too many steps. It needs to be brought down to where, like you said, an ombudsman, and you give the complaint, they investigate and determine whether or not a law has been broken. But we need to ensure that those people are impartial, because running into the issues with someone that's not impartial could harm the parent in the long run. And we want somebody that's going to stand up for parental rights. So we need to make sure we vet them very well, that they're going to stand up for our rights as parents.
Right. Excellent. Well, Colette, thank you so much. We could talk for hours, I know, about this situation.
Yes.
But Texas Education 911 and all of Texas appreciate your bravery, your courage in sharing the story, and your son, his courage, and just being able to know that, hey, something wasn't right. And then having the guts to stand up in front of the school board. A lot of kids don't do that or have the initiative to do that. I just really applaud you. You're obviously raising an incredible child, and we need to fix our schools so that we can send these kids to school and know that they're loved and protected, and that our rights as a parent are not being violated. If anybody out there has another story to tell that you would like to make sure that the rest of Texas knows and understands, especially as we work with our legislators to try to fix what is going on, please reach out to us. You can email us at texased911@gmail.com. Thank you so much, Colette, for being with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate that.